Um, oh, there we go. It says you're live. Okay, let's see if we're live on YouTube and the Facebook and the Snapchat and the Insta and the Twitter and the TikToks. I don't care.
Are you really?
No. If I ever get,
I'm TikToking this. Am I not supposed to TikTok this?
Boy, no, we ain't doing that. Because TikTok is just an app for people dancing really wonky, and they somehow become popular. So,
well, I mean, Bill can do that. He can make up a dance.
Whatever makes him happy. If people tune into it, so be it.
It's just like when I see all these teenagers, I'm like, I don't get it. So, but okay, I think we should be live, and I think
we're live. Yeah.
Okay, live. Okay. Well, hello everyone. So, as you can tell, I'm not used to this. So, be patient with me tonight. I promise, from every one of these things that I do, I will learn from it and try and get better. So, but if you're watching us right now, thank you so much for tuning in, and welcome to a special episode of the Flash podcast, your podcast favorite related to CW's The Flash. Starring Greg as Baron, aka The Flash. I'm your host Andy B, as always, and tonight I'm joined by a very special panel with some amazing super friends. Because while normally we do talk about this guy, we're not talking about him from Earth Prime today. We're talking about the one from the DC Extended Universe. And joining me, first of all, I mean, you know her. She's part of the DC TV podcast now, where she's been on this podcast multiple times, and she is one of our champions who keeps things going, keeps us together, keeps us sane. She is the lovely, the amazing, our own Supergirl, Miss Rebecca Johnson. Rebecca, welcome back to the Flash podcast. How you doing?
Well, I really appreciate that, Andy. It's nice to be thought of as the fastest character in the DC universe. So I will take that as a compliment. So I really appreciate that. I'm glad we could get together and talk about the Flash in the DCEU. So I'm very excited.
And like I said, she's basically our Supergirl. The only difference is that she actually goes to work and Kara doesn't. So
this is true. That is a true fact.
Yeah. So Kara, you could you're a Pulitzer-winning journalist now. Maybe
that doesn't mean you still have to work.
Well, Lois Lane works all the time.
That's true. So yeah,
she's never not working.
Exactly. And also for any of our Gotham listeners, you will recognize this next guest. He may not be podcasting about DC TV anymore, but he's still always an honorable family member. And I guess he kind of got a little famous when he left us. He's podcast mastermind. He is an author. He is, again, he looks like a combination of Joel McHale and the guy from Modern Family, and he's Bill Meeks of Do Anything Media. Bill, welcome back. How are you doing today?
Great. Also, by the way, Andy, I'm straight up coming for your apartment. Just so you know, it's mine. It'll be mine soon.
Well, then you could take the bank loan and the mortgage and everything else. So it's all good with me.
It's great to be here. Since Gotham ended, I don't get much of a chance to talk DC on the interwebs these days. So it's great to be here with a lot of good friends to talk about it, for sure.
Well, it's not like we're preventing you from talking about DC. Like, I mean, did I not come to you and say, hey, I don't really want to have to create a podcast for that Gotham PD show on HBO MAX. Do you want to cover it so I don't have to?
Yeah. You got that new one coming up.
Yeah, but he's like, I'm done, and I just take it with my assistant. Like, I don't have time for you.
The only thing I'm willing to do a new fan cast about is if they do a Golden Girls reboot, and then I'm all over it.
The Golden Girls.
But I know that it's not in the DC universe yet, but with the multiverse, anything can happen.
Anything is possible, yeah.
Well, I mean, if Barry just goes back in time and messes things up, I mean, I'm sure he could bring Betty White into the Arrowverse. I mean...
No, I want to see Barry go back in time and date Blanche when she's a teenager, and then come back to the future and have to deal with meeting the old Blanche. It could be one of those May-December relationships.
You thought about this.
Who is Blanche on Gold?
You think about this.
Are you Googling Blanche Devereaux?
Rebecca,
This is upsetting.
It's Rue McClanahan.
listen,
Legend of stage and screen.
even though
Just
okay,
stage and screen.
I don't understand how people expect me to know these shows when I wasn't even born when it came out.
That's no excuse.
It's in the culture.
I was gonna say they see you. You're a nice, intelligent guy. They assume that you're cultured. You know what's going on with it.
Wait. Me nice. Me intelligent.
Me intelligent.
We ain't that's not me at all. And then joining us last but not least is for Flash Podcast listeners. He's a new voice, but greatly appreciated. I got to podcast with him a couple of not that many months ago. It was like a few months ago. As we on a different channel. He is the host of DC Cinematic Minute, which is an amazing podcast for if you love the DCU. Then this podcast is for you. And he's also the host of Doom Patrol Radio. And he's Mr. Mark Meadows. So Mark, welcome to the Flash Podcast. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, thank you guys for inviting me. It's I feel so honored to be invited. I'm like, I agree with Bill. I haven't done a lot of podcasting lately. I've been so busy. But yeah, Doom Patrol was like a whole thing for me. So now that we're kind of on hiatus, I'm kind of just like, I'm taking a break. I'm trying to relish in the break before season 3 comes back. So thanks.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the same, me and my crew on Doom Patrol Podcast, we're in the same position where like, great, it got renewed when it's actually happening because can anything film? So 2020, yay, here we go. But you know what? Tonight we ain't gonna focus about these TV. We're gonna focus on the DCEU. And also, by the way, for everyone who may have missed it, this one came from our own Rebecca Johnson, which was a lovely gift when I was going through some difficult times, and she knew I needed a smile. So this was a pleasant surprise, and I wanted to just showcase it tonight. Plus, I don't own a lot of DCU Flash merch, so like I gotta get working. Although I am representing, so is Rebecca. Boys, what the hell?
Sorry,
I do have
this is for Lex Luthor. The genius, it's for Lex Luthor.
Yeah, there you go. I got my stuff in the background. You can see it. But I did get that associate producer shirt. I think that's a beautiful shirt. I really like that one.
Oh, you know what, Andy? I don't think I pointed this out, but I also turned my background red because of Flash. Since his costume's red.
Mm-hmm.
You got the red glasses.
Well, I had no idea it was red.
It's mildly red. Mildly
it's called
red.
a genius. Look it up.
And for everyone who's watching in Rebecca's panel, you can see she has the cool shot of Barry when he's going to help Diana out with her sword, which is a lot cooler than some other crap that he did in the movie that should not be spoken about. You know who. But tonight, like I said, we're not going to focus on Barry from Earth Prime. He's on a break. We ain't got time for him, so we're gonna focus on the DCEU Flash. So it's more about hope, about like things that we know about so far about what Zack is doing with Barry Allen, and also like what the DCU is gonna do with him beyond the Snyder Cut, and also because we're not gonna do a news section, but it is finally official that the movie will be called Zack Snyder's Justice League, like it should have always been called. So I'm happy for Zack. He deserves it. And yeah, I mean, 2021 cannot get here fast enough because I mean, they're filming right now. There's all these people coming back, and I remember because Mark, when we were all together on the other show, you were kind of like, I don't want any more details to come out, and yet it keeps coming and coming and coming. Like I feel like Zack heard you. Like he's not posting anything on Vero anymore, but like the rest of the industry is like, nah, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, that's always been my thing. Even before the cut was announced, I want to say like just even 2 years into it, the whole movement, the whole Snyder Cut movement, I was always for it. Like whatever the fundraising event is, whatever the publicity movement thing that we're doing, whatever, we're having this big day today to retweet this hashtag to like basically spread the word and to really tell Warner Brothers that we want to see this movie, right? I'm always about that. But when Zack wants to, stir the waters and be like, yo, let me just drop this photo on Vero today, I'm like, I do want to see it, but I don't want to see it like that. Like, please, I want to see, because I don't want to get to that point where people are checking off the boxes of like, okay, when does Silas get destroyed? When does Amber Heard show up as Mara? And like, I don't want it to be like that. I want it to just be the story that we were been starving for. So I try to abstain from seeing anything else now.
Yeah, that's kind of the same way I've been. Once it became confirmed that it was happening, I was like, okay, I'm going to back away, because before it was like, ooh, theoretical, all this stuff that could have been. And so it was really interesting. But as soon as it was like, oh no, this stuff is going to actually happen, I was like, oh, wait a second. I want to kind of remain a little pure.
Well, the thing I'm excited about is that we know they're doing reshoots and also additional photography. So there's going to be new stuff that we don't even know about at this point. So there's a lot of stuff I think that we still don't know.
I know it's October, but it feels like Christmas, honestly, because listen, I don't think this is going to be 4 hours. I think it's going to be like a 5-6 hour thing or something like that, because if Zack wants it, he will get it. Like, it's I think the industry. I mean, I think the world has learned what happens when you don't listen to Zack Snyder, because he has something good to offer. So let's if he wants to do a 10 episode season, season.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the other question. Do we get a sequel or do we get season 2? Like, what? Like, is that that's the thing you start thinking about? It's like, okay, is more coming? And
it would have to be Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 then, I guess, because and listen, if that happens and it happens in season format, I mean, listen. I'm hi. My name is Andrew. I'm a podcast alcoholic, and if Snyder Cut gets a season 2 and 3, you can bet your ass that I will make a whole podcast about that.
I mean, I guess with the HBO Max formula, if they decide to greenlit a sequel in the sense of a second season, or like another 4-part. I mean, that's just going to keep people subscribed. So,
well, I would imagine too that it'll be a little easier on them budget wise. One, because we'll be almost 8 or 9 years out from when they originally shot it, and two, because they're using that Mandalorian tech more and more, where it's like the big screen projections instead of green screen, so you don't have to do all the CGI and post and everything. It's all just kind of recorded live to camera.
Yeah,
which means they can turn around faster.
Yeah, and The Mandalorian doesn't have a lot of episodes per season. So, I mean, you could lower the budget that way, too, make less episodes and use better techniques and technology. So I could see it, especially if it, draws big numbers and people are really excited about it. I'm not getting my hopes up for it, though. I'm expecting only 4 hours.
4 hours and that's
only 4 hours.
But
only 4 hours.
But it would be awesome if they continued the Snyderverse, if you will. Just to see it expand and grow like it should have.
I think the news that came out this week that Leto is coming back for it, that kind of made me think, okay, maybe they are thinking about continuing this on past the series, because he's Morbius now. He doesn't need DC, and if he's willing to come back and Affleck's willing to come back, I don't see why they don't want to do something together.
Release the Ayer cut.
Yeah, that's easy money right there. That's done. Like, they don't.
But Warner Bros. They don't like money, do they? they like putting out 2 hour. They like to put out rush 2 hour crap, and then just because someone wanted their bonus.
Not to get too mean spirited, but based on their quarterly earnings that they announced a couple weeks ago, they don't. They really don't like money. They just they don't like having it.
Yeah,
they'd rather not have it on the books.
Now, this is some delicious iced tea, and I just happen to sip on it as I'm,
Yeah, it's a coincidence there.
So let's get to the discussion. So we're gonna start with the Flash in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I cannot believe we can say the title now; it's finally official. So, and I'm gonna start with Rebecca, then Bill, and then Mark. So just to. Because I'm gonna try to pretend that I'm organized, but I'm not. So first of all, like, from everything that we've seen of Ezra so far, as a Flash, it's been 2017 didn't happen, but we've heard things, and we know that he's gonna be like a big player beyond this film and so on. But so far, like, how do you feel? Sorry, with you, Rebecca. How you felt about following his journey as the Flash on the big screen, because it's been almost 6 years now since he first got announced as Barry Allen.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've seen him in 3 movies. So Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, where he made a brief cameo, and then the Justice League. So we only have seen just a little bit of him as Zack Snyder wanted him to be. And I really liked that it sort of seemed like he was just starting out. And it was a little conflicting in what Joss Whedon did with him, because then it sort of, in Justice League, it made it seem like he was a novice, like he was a rookie. But then Suicide Squad made it seem like he was fighting, Captain Boomerang for a long time. So it's kind of hard to reconcile both of those visions, which is why I'm excited that Zack Snyder's Justice League is coming out, so we can see how Zack Snyder intended him to really be. But I liked the way he was used in BVS with the very quick cameo of him getting the milk and, stopping the robbery in the store. And so I really enjoyed that. And I also really liked in Suicide Squad, where he seemed pretty confident and he seemed to be somewhat in control of his abilities and his powers. So the Justice League stuff was very confusing to me, because it seemed like it was going backwards a little bit. So, but I love Ezra, though. I love how much of a nerd he is about the character and about the Flash universe. He knows everything, it seems like. I think early on he did an interview with is it Adam Horowitz with MTV News, and he was just spitting all this like Flash knowledge out, and he was such a nerd about it. So that's what kind of makes me excited that he's going to get to continue to revisit the character, because I think he actually really loves the Flash. So I'm excited to see where he goes from here, because in my mind, we've only gotten just a little bit of him so far.
Wait a minute. Adam Horowitz, Josh Horowitz from Once Upon.
Oh wait, it was Josh Horowitz.
Adam Horowitz is from Once Upon a Time. Yeah.
Also from Lost. That's probably why I mentioned Adam, because Lost is one of my favorite TV shows. But yes, you're right, Josh Horowitz. Because I think they're brothers. They look alike.
But of course they are.
Yes. Okay. So it was Josh Horowitz. Good catch. Thank you.
No, because I wasn't trying to correct it. I was, but like, wait a minute. Because I hear Horowitz, I always mix those two people up. So, but if they're brothers, wow. I mean, small world, right?
I think so, but don't quote me on that. But I think so.
Moving to you, Bill. How do you feel about Ezra's journey as the Flash so far? When you just see like even like promotional art of him as the Flash, what kind of what goes into your head?
Well, you know what? I will say, I'll start with criticism, because you should always start with the negative, right? I don't like the suit too much. It feels too like armory for me. But that's all the criticism I have. Like, I love his portrayal generally. I kind of think it comes off more as Wally West than Barry Allen that I know from the comics at points. But I don't mind it. I just think that, really, the Flash so far in the DCEU has been sort of the Riddler of superheroes, because we don't know anything about him or his personal life or anything like that. Plus, he leaves all these riddles. Not really. But I think it's going to be great to kind of get in there and get a look at his civilian life and the characters around him, like you see on the show. Just because right now, to me, the character as a whole is kind of a blank slate minus, the quips. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that third dimension of Ezra Miller's Barry Allen.
And Mark, what about you? Because since you get to cover the DCU a lot more often than the rest of us, what has your experience been with seeing Ezra as the fastest man alive?
So even when we covered Suicide Squad, it was we had talked about like that scene was actually shot by Zack Snyder. He wanted to do that for the movie. So you can already see that there's tangibility between what you see in BVS and what you see in Suicide Squad. That I think what's great about the Snyder Cut trailer that we saw at DC Fandom is there's a lot of Ezra in that. And I think sometimes you get more out of him than the other characters, because you can really, he's really defined in that trailer. And I'm hoping that people pay attention to that, because even that last clip at the end of the trailer, that is a completely different Ezra Flash portrayal than what we saw in the movie back in 2017. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then another thing that people have brought up is that Zack Snyder has had 3 years to soak up all this criticism for a movie he didn't do, and there's this thing that he himself is able to go back in time and fix the things that he might have did wrong with his cut. He has all this ammunition, right? Some people don't like the way Ezra runs in that movie. Maybe he could do reshoots and maybe have him run differently. There's always things you could do like that. I think it's fine. I think the ice skating running is, I think it's understandable. I get it. I think just the way it was used in the movie was awful. And I think I talked about that the last time we met, was that they have Ezra running in that style, right? But because they're doing these weird green screen things just because of the reshoots, it looks completely awful. So I think once Zack Snyder says, no, here's how it's supposed to look, and this is why it looks good, then we would go, oh, okay, now it makes a lot more sense. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what was filmed of Ezra with the right backdrop, with the right scenario for why he's running like that. So it's so hard to say, because a lot of times we think about that movie even though we don't want to, but that's what we're dealt with.
Well, if only someone could just run back in time, erase that movie, so that we can forget. But this boy has been victimized of time travel shaming. So I understand that he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Mark's point, I think if they give context, because I don't think we got context to the reason why Barry ran the way he did, and there may be a reason that he does it like that. Mm-hmm. So, especially because I think Zack Snyder, the vision for the Flash, Ezra Miller's Flash, was that his powers were sort of like what are those things called when you like put your hand on it? It has all these little lightning bolts that come out.
Like a little Tesla coil thing.
Yeah, Tesla coil.
Yeah.
I think that the premise of the lightning bolts for Barry, for this Flash, for Ezra's Flash, was something like that. So I wonder if the running has to do with the Tesla coil action and the way that moves. So for me, if there's context behind it and they explain why he is the way he is and why he runs the way he runs, that will make it less goofy for me. And I think because of the reshoots probably used it in a different context, I think that's why it looks as weird as it does.
Yeah.
Like for me, that the way he runs kind of spoke to character, because this Flash is sort of like, dude, multiverse kind of Flash. So like having him like, oh my god, I'm running so fast, like it made total sense to me. But like when people were like, the Flash ran weird, I was like, did he? And then I went back and looked at some clips and I was like, yeah, okay, I guess. Yeah. But I just didn't get the criticism.
Yeah, for me, people really want to pull out receipts on me. I was initially furious that they went with a different Flash than Grant back in season 1, because it happened like after episode 2 had aired. But I'm so glad that I get to have both of these two guys playing Barry Allen, and yes, I was one of those people who kept saying that, yeah, he doesn't look like he knows how to run. He looks like a skater. Like, what the hell? But again, if this wasn't what Zack had envisioned for him, then I think I need to give it another shot and like see what actually like you guys say, what the context is, because he could be, maybe he's chasing someone and it's maybe it's his first time chasing a speedster. I don't know. I mean, we know that every time he's had to go up against a certain yellow suited figure, it's always been a little taunting for him. So no, but I mean, it is like Rebecca's point about like how geeky he is about all this. Like during DC Fandom, like I know people were mocking him, we're just doing all the Flash facts and so, but like for me, I'm like, no, because this is amazing. Because first of all, Flash facts is always fun when they're dropped. But also just to see like how far, like he goes way back. Like I think he's like even studying like the 1940s comics with Jay Garrick and so on. And and for me, like it makes me feel safe with him playing that character, because that means that he takes the mythology very seriously, and that he cares about the way that we care about it. So that means a lot to me. And so far Zack, I mean, here's the thing. Zack, like I said, he is the Riddler. Like he is so damn cryptic about everything. Like I cannot even imagine if his if Deborah were like, so like, what are we having for dinner tonight? And he's just like, well, what could we have for dinner? Like, are there options, or is the option decided for us? Like, I mean, I could literally envision being like that. But when it comes to the Flash, he's shared a few cryptic things. He's talked about what he may or may not do with the Flash, and and I'm gonna start with Rebecca again. Like, so what has hooked you about? Anytime you hear Zach talking about Flash, even though it's like a riddle within a riddle, what has gotten you most jazzed about like seeing Barry on the big screen?
Well, most of it revolves around what he has to say about Lois Lane in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. That she is the key. It makes a very grand, powerful, and bright entrance into the Batcave with that message. And so that for me was the first time I was like, okay, I like this Barry Allen. He gets it. Lois Lane is the key. That's what I think about Lois Lane in the DC universe. So that makes a lot of sense. I'm on board with this Flash. So I like that he has seemingly a very important role in the story that Zack Snyder was setting up with the nightmare sequence and what was happening on the other side, because we never got to see what was on the other side of that message. I'm hoping that we'll see some of that in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but whatever that was, it was very important, and he had to deliver a very important message. So that was the first time that I was really on board with him. And I like that they're trying something different and new with him, because I've seen a lot of the CW's Flash. I like Grant Gustin as the Flash. I like what they've done with him so far. But I like that the movies presented something a little different. Y'all were talking about the suit. I actually love the suit. I like that it's based in his abilities and how he's trying to channel and harness that energy, and how he's trying to figure out how to do that. And it's all about the Tesla coils and making sure all of that is going around, because he's having to deal with all that stuff on his body. So he's trying to figure out how, and I hope we get more explanation. As I don't know if they'll dig into, oh, this is why I made this suit. Yeah. But I like that they're trying something to separate him out from Grant Gustin, so that it's not just a repeat. I hate it when movies and TV shows just do the same thing over and over and over again. That's kind of why I have an issue with the Donnerverse, because it always shows up everywhere. But so I think that's the thing that hooked me, was the Lois Lane is the key, and then getting to see something fresh and new from his take.
Well, to our listeners and our viewers, if if you ever want to cheer Rebecca up, just tweet her to say Lois Lane is the key, and she will be happy. Like, I think now we know that it really like makes her like. I mean, and listen, Lois Lane is amazing, and I'm still kind of fat about the fact that we have someone as amazing as Amy Adams playing her, and also how little appreciation she gets from the world. So, for all the haters, learn to recognize good acting, I guess. I'm not gonna get too shady, but yeah, no, Lois Lane is definitely the key. And if Barry is that smart that he realizes that, then that's worth going back in time for. Bill, let's talk to you for a second now about what, like, whenever you like, and again, I don't know how much you've been following Zach's riddles, because you covered about a show with a riddler for 5 years, so like I'm sure maybe you were all riddled out, whatever I was trying to say. I
wore out the riddle part of my brain.
Exactly. So, but like, what kind of mysteries are you drawn to when it comes to this Flash that Zach is trying to present to us?
I'm sorry, I missed the word there. What kind of what?
The kind of Flash that Zach is trying to present to us, like what kind of intrigues you about like the bits and mysteries that he's kind of like putting out there, even though like there's no need for him to be the Riddler, just be Zack Snyder, the director.
I just think that one thing that I'm interested to see is, because it seems like there's a much more expanded friendship with Cyborg in this version of it. So Again, and I think it just comes down to the fact that he's in the Justice League. Barry Allen is such a thin character. He's there to deliver the jokes, and that's it. So I think I'm just very excited to see all of that fleshed out in his relationship with Vic Stone, and like I said, I haven't been paying too much strict attention because I'm trying to remain a little unspoiled, but it seems like they kind of lead the charge in, bringing Superman back in this version, even more so than maybe the Justice League version. So I'm excited to see them kind of like pick it up and like carry it and be like a huge part of the solution to the problem.
Every time you guys say Justice League, I cannot stop giggling. Like it is the.
That's what it is.
It is. I mean, if I could go steal every DVD and Blu-ray set out there in the world, I would. And like, if I could do Photoshop, I would just. We're not gonna miss. Hold on.
I was just gonna say it took place on Earth Joss.
I hope. Well, hopefully that got this. Hopefully that Earth was destroyed, and then it wasn't revived by Oliver Queen. But Rebecca and I, we know how messy Oliver Queen can be. He could bring back all his dead people, but he couldn't bring back Laurel.
Yeah, what's that about?
Well, thankfully, Rebecca, you and I, we're free of Arrow now next season. So like, it's we've suffered enough. We can find rest,
Yes.
and he can suffer now with Felicity.
They put that character out of his misery. Thank goodness.
I love it when Rebecca and I just get to drag Arrow. There's like
they had to pay a lot to do it.
I mean, Rebecca and I, we didn't have to pay it anything. We just had to watch it and enjoy it.
I heard he got a very nice paycheck for that last couple episodes. That's mainly what I was referencing.
You know what? Good for him.
I mean, he did do a show for 8 seasons. He did kind of.
Yeah. I love everyone who's been a part of the DC TV stuff. It's just, I guess, it's just always the creative differences, right? Like you watch it and you go, I don't know about all that, especially with all the Black Canary stuff. But then, at the end of the day, you go, congrats, Steven. You were Green Arrow for a long time. The fact that Green Arrow got like 7 seasons and like spawned this whole thing, you got to just be proud about that, right? Because it's like who could have asked for it, right? So,
Mark, we did not ask you to bring your positive thoughts about.
Oh, it's okay. I'm the guy over here who said,
I'm just kidding.
Nate and I, when we started Doom Patrol Radio, we were like, and Nate was like, well, what if it's bad? And I said, well, I guess we got to talk about how bad it is. But thankfully, that's not the case.
No,
just as long as you don't slam out Olicity on this stream, I'm cool. Just don't slam Olicity.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, you're 100% right. Arrow does. We owe a lot to Arrow.
Yeah.
The DC CW universe, whatever they call it now, is a thing.
I still think season 1 of Supergirl is like top tier. If you were like took every season of every DC TV and was like had to rank them, I think season 1 of Supergirl is like top tier.
I agree. 100%.
It's only the only season I own on Blu-ray or DVD, and even though I can't find it, that's the only one that I bought because I'm like, well, that we can spill the tea off air. Mark, let's talk to you about anytime I know you're trying to stay unspoiled, but listen, I know that you're like the rest of a junkie for Zack Snyder content. So like whenever he posts something or a cryptic or he says something, I'm sure you picked up on that. What kind of bits and mysteries are drawing you to Ezra's Flash that Zack is, thankfully getting to set up in Snyder Cut?
I think it's a little bit of trying to understand exactly where this Barry Allen is. I think that inconsistency that we've had is what I want hammered out and to figure out. But I think the other thing that is also important, and I try to do this a lot with the DCEU, is I know we always want to praise Zack Snyder, right, for a lot of things, but he gets a lot of help with a good team and good cast and all that, and good writers. And so Chris Terrio, I've heard this joke before, but it's like people don't know if Chris Terrio is a bad writer or if he's a great writer in bad movies. And I really want Chris Terrio to actually have a moment to, as a writer, he's the one creating these stories of what Superman is going through in this cinematic universe, what Batman is going through with his redemption arc, what Wonder Woman goes through, and what Flash is going through with his father in prison and stuff like that. It's things like that where that's what I want to dive more into. Show me what is Barry going through? Why is he in this situation? And how is he feeling when he's in that situation? And how that all kind of comes back to as a character. What are we studying here? What does this superhero mean to me? That when I leave the theater, I feel inspired to call him my role model or my favorite superhero, something like that. You know, Wonder Woman is like that for many people, including myself. What is Flash doing for people who are Flash fans? And it's not just being able to manipulate the Speed Force and time travel. That's cool and all. That's going to be visually awesome. But what is that character doing when he saves Iris? Why does he save Iris? Why does he try to fight crime, but also try to what is the term? Amnesty, some I forget what the term is, but like find justice for his dad, or like what is that as a character? And that comes down to writing and Chris Terrio and stuff like that. That's what I want to figure out. That's what I want to know. That's what I went to the movie to see and didn't see. So that's the puzzle I want to know.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get some sweet Chris Terrio dialogue. That would be so awesome. Just the very end of that Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League trailer from HBO Max with the Batman line that he delivers there at the end. That to me felt, Chris Terrio like. So I'm hoping we'll get.
You mean this?
Yes, that quote.
Yeah. If people don't get that Chris Terrio is a great writer, then get yourself.
I think I think it's the latter one. I've heard that because at the time that people were saying that, it's because Chris Terrio was in Rise of Skywalker, and that was another controversial film that obviously had a lot of that kind of director studio involvement. How do we make this a successful product at the box office? Because that's the bottom line, right? Zack Snyder's Justice League went through the same thing. A lot of these movies go through that because that's what matters, is how much money does the movie make, not are people going to have a podcast later and talk about like the thematics and the character development and what does it mean to be a superhero. They don't care about that. So with The Rise of Skywalker, it was another one of those things where it's like, all right, it's another bad blockbuster movie with Chris Terrio's name on it. Like, what's the deal here, my guy? And it's like, no, I think he's just unfortunately in these big movies, and they hack away at so much that it's like, how could the writing even be remotely good? It's not even what he wanted in the movie. So it's things like that where now that we get to see Zack Snyder's Justice League, it's like, okay, now we get to see what it's supposed to be like, what the story is supposed to sound like. So
yeah, I think Batman v. Oh, go ahead, Bill.
Oh no, you can go ahead, Rebecca.
I was just going to say, I think Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice shows that if you leave it alone, let them do what they want to do, it's awesome. But like you said, the studio interference was the big problem for both Justice League and Rise of Skywalker. I personally thought Rise of Skywalker was better than, like, say, The Last Jedi, but it was still mostly terrible. If I'm going to put my Star Wars things on there, just because it was a retread of things that they had already done before in the Star Wars universe. But I think Chris Terrio really tried. I think there was an effort from his part, but I think if you leave him alone and let him do his thing, he ends up writing great scripts and great dialogue. So that's what I wish people would do with Chris Terrio. Just let him do his thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Rebecca, you're being absolutely ridiculous. How can you actually tell the industry that directors and writers should get to be filmmakers? I mean, don't you get it, Rebecca? The studio executives, they are the real filmmakers. They're the ones who
know better about how to make a movie than movie makers.
It's not about art anymore. It's about merchandise.
Yes.
Well, like Mark was saying before, there's this constant struggle between the art and the commerce of it, right?
Yeah.
And going back to what I was saying earlier about the Mandalorian tech, I think that's like a good way to maybe kind of strike a good balance, because a big part of the reason these movies have to make so much money, besides rich people liking more money, is that they have to justify the big budgets that they have. So the more technology can bring those budgets down using things like the Mandalorian tech, maybe more the the dog will be wagging the tail instead of the tail wagging the dog in terms of the creative vision of a work.
Yeah.
Before we go on, Rebecca, was that a Man of Steel cup I just saw? Because if that was it, I love you even more. Oh,
It's beautiful.
I mean,
Yeah, it's got my coffee in there, so I felt it was appropriate.
what like whoever made that cup, like they really took advantage of that picture photo because the cape really does go around like that.
Yeah, you gotta get the landscape photo.
Yeah, got to get all that cape in there.
Yeah.
See, when you said Man of Steel cup, I was hoping it was like going to be like a 7-Eleven promotional cup or something. She had like a Slurpee.
Well, moving on, and I'm kind of like gonna kind of try and merge them a little bit so we can get to our, because we have a second half about Flash to cover, because and this is a serious subject. I know time travel is sensitive to people. I know that it has caused a lot of trouble for obnoxious characters in the Arrowverse. I mean victims in the Arrowverse. I mean, I guess, she was a baby. She came back anyway. Whatever. Time travel seems to be something that will be a crucial part of Zack's Flash in the Snyder Cut. He's kind of implied that maybe a Barry going back in time could help the Justice League in the long run. But again, what do we know? He's the man is a walking riddle. We're not gonna find it until 2021. So let's start with you, Rebecca. Look, you and I, we're used to time travel. Like, my hero messes things up. You're created a Russian clone.
Yeah.
Are we calling it clone? What are we calling her?
Yeah, I guess clone. I mean, she had the Kara likeness and some of her memories. So I would, clone.
Yeah, and
that's fair.
So like, Speed Force, Legion rings. I mean, we you and I, we get it. We're like this with time travel, but of course in the DCU we haven't really seen that in a larger capacity. So like, what are you kind of hoping to see differently with time travel in the cinematic universe as compared to when we see it on the CW, for example?
I heard some things from what was affectionately called SnyderCon, which was a weekend of watching Zack Snyder movies with Zack Snyder, which I unfortunately didn't get a chance to go to, and now I'm kicking myself because I wish I'd been there. But he did reveal some things there that I don't want to spoil too much, but it sounded like there was a point in his vision of the films that the Justice League would have to figure out how to make time travel work. And it seemed like, from what I understood, that would be something that the Flash and Cyborg would sort of brainstorm about together. And that's what I would like to see is how do they, because I don't know if it at the end of, I guess Suicide Squad would be the time that we saw him before he gets to Justice League and has to possibly use time travel. How does he figure out that he can use time travel? How does he get to that point where he understands that one of his abilities is not just going really fast? Like, how does he get to that point where he thinks, oh, I can travel through time? How does he figure that out? So that's what I'm hoping we'll get is that workshopping of that idea of how does he know that he can do that? How does he get to the point where he's time traveling into the Batcave and delivers a message about how Lois Lane is the key? How does he get to that point? So that's one of the things with time travel that I really want to see and know about.
Belle, how about you?
I'm kind of and this might be influenced a little bit about a wonderful little movie I saw over the summer called Bill and Ted Face the Music, but their approach to time travel was just whatever. Like, we don't care about the rules. We don't care about crossing time streams and alternate realities. We're just having fun with it. And we're trying to tell a story that you can't tell unless time travel works without a bunch of, rules and stuff like that. So I actually hope that they don't kind of zero in too much on the rules of time travel and the hows and the whys, and they just have fun with it. If we can get Barry Allen zipping back to the JSA, to set up the Black Adam movie, that's awesome. If we can get Barry Allen running into the future and maybe running into Impulse for a second, that would be great. I just want them to, and I think DC will probably talk about it more when we talk about the actual Flash movie. They understand what a wacky group of characters and power sets and a universe they have. And I think the more they lean into that, the more success they're going to see. Wacky versus, I would say the Marvel stuff is silly, where wacky is more jubilant and just fun, versus, just a cheap laugh.
I agree. I'm looking in the comments because again, if everyone who's tuning in and commenting to participating, thank you so much. From New Rachel, what's up, girl? I see you. She asked, I went. How did you? Oh wait, I can hit show. There we go.
That is cool.
I mean, I didn't know it either. Just learned it now. I was like, how does Barry get to the point where he travels into the Speed Force? Well, New Rachel, that is something that I've been crying my eyes out for 3 years. Rebecca knows this from all of our chats on Facebook, where like I will constantly come at some point and be like, Rebecca, we could have seen Zack Speed Force. And I go on for like 20 minutes and I torture her because I'm like, I don't have anyone who understands me better than her when it comes to the Snyderverse. And it's like, I want to know that too. I want to what does the Speed Force in this universe look like? Because it's obviously not going to be the same one that we see on the Flash, where like it mostly manifests in the form of people that Barry knows, like his mom and his, like Joe or Iris and so on. And so like, how does all that work? So hopefully that will be answered in 2021. And there we go. I could just, I love StreamYard.
Awesome.
Learning.
Yes.
Learning. I just want now someone's going to jump and be like, learning in capital letters.
The more you know.
The more you know. Mark, what kind of surprises do you hope to see with time travel from Flash in this universe? As it seems like it's gonna be a big part of DC's whole cinematic universe going forward beyond the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I think Barry's first introduction into the cinematic universe was that nightmare sequence, right? You see Barry there first before you see him in the videotapes later on in Dawn of Justice. So right away we're setting up that he does know how to time travel. That's in the second movie. That's in the second movie. We established that. Now we have to go, okay, in Justice League, I think he will stumble upon it, right? And then in Flashpoint, he's like, well, I know I can time travel, so maybe I can do some good with it. And then you figure out with Flashpoint, that's a bad idea. You shouldn't be doing that. And then if there, was a Justice League Part 2, there would be like Batman saying, I need you to time travel. And he's like, hold on, wait a minute. This is a bad idea. And he says, we don't have a choice. I need you to time travel. And so I think it's always been kind of laid out like that kind of road of how Barry does the time traveling, because I think that's what they want to focus on. The thing is, though, that for what Zack has talked about with that time traveling, how he gets to the correct point in time is with the help of Cyborg and Batman. So I think with Flashpoint and with Justice League, he won't know what he's doing with it. He just knows that he can time travel in like the weirdest set of physics, like he's just like, oh, I guess I can time travel, but he won't know how to handle it. And especially with Flashpoint, I think he's going to really mess things up. And even the DC animated Flashpoint is different from the way the book does it. So it's really up to them to kind of decide how, what's going to happen with it. I'm really not expecting this Flashpoint movie to be anything like the book, nor should it, because that's a completely different circumstances. They were trying to reboot their comic book line. This DC animated universe was trying to launch its own DC animated shared universe. So there's a lot of things where we just have to accept that what Flashpoint is, which is, I guess like
overrated. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of it's kind of in league with Death of Superman, the comic book, where I think Dawn of Justice did it a lot better because it meant something. Where Death of Superman, the comic book, was we need to make money now, so we need to do this, and it works. So I think with Flashpoint, it's if they stick to what they're trying to do, which is kind of, I guess, reboot the DC cinematic universe so that it's all coherent and stuff. Great. I know what I'm getting into. So show me the Michael Keaton Batman, show me the Ben Affleck Batman in the same movie. I'm already ready. So
Well, the thing I wanted to add before we go on is that, like, for me, because I can't because having been someone that's covered a show for 7 years and having seen like the way they tackle time travel, which sometimes I do love it, sometimes I don't. I think it's also because of the hypocritical side of the Arrowverse, where like one show has a hero that does time travel by mistake and gets like slammed for it, which is why the writers decided to just not do time travel for a few seasons. But then we had this other show that constantly does that, and like yeah, if we broke it, like when we break the timeline, we kind of make it better, or you don't, you risk the safety of many people's lives. But history's fun to break. So either way, but for me, like I want to see a Barry that. Yes, I want to see him be like a newbie at it, like being, know that I can do it, but how can I do it? But also being at some point like that he can use it in a responsible way where like, if he needs to gather, let's say what Bill was talking about, like he needs to go back in time and meet Jay Garrick from the JSA in the 50s, when did it's the 40s, right? When they first show up. It's not like in the 50s or 60s, like
in the comics, I'd imagine they're probably going to end up bumping that forward. I think they did for Stargirl, didn't they? They bumped that forward a little bit where the JSA was more active in like the 80s.
I think so. Like maybe in the early 2000s, because like everything kind of looked very modern, because the pilot opens up 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I want to see Barry be able to use title in a resourceful way, like kind of if he needs to go back and meet the first Flash. And find how did you connect to the Speed Force? Like, how did you like just kind of see these kind of things where like, because like it's the whole thing of like yes, he messes up time and he's a screw up, and so like it's kind of run its joke, like it's run its it's run its course. Like I want to see the movies actually like use it in a fun, creative way where like hey he can save the day by actually going back in time, learning about information, but not changing anything. So.
Yeah, I think the main kind of issue that you touched on and you referenced that I touched on is that so many stories these days, when they use time travel, they use it as a problem instead of a solution to the problem. And I think that's kind of where it loses its interest, because once it becomes a problem, then you get into that nitpicky, quantum mechanics, what's going on here, and you lose the story because you're so concerned with, writing a technical manual on a fictional scientific concept that you're not really just sort of embracing just, again, the wackiness of it.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
like, see, like you guys get it, and the haters don't. So,
haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. Yeah, play that song. So we're gonna move on from the Flash in the Snyder Cut now to talk about a little about his adventures beyond the Snyder Cut. So, and we're not gonna spend too much time because there's not too much information. But hey, it's still fun things we can talk about because, man, this movie, y'all. Around this time, 6 years ago, is when they first announced it, and it was supposed to come out in 2018. Look where we are now. But finally, things are starting to come together, and it's gonna, they call it Flashpoint, but it's its own version. Definitely. I mean, Flashpoint is kind of a cool name, so I get it. It could be used more loosely, because we're gonna see Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton both as their own versions of the Caped Crusader. Will they be in a scene together? You'll have to tune in and find out. But I'm going to start with Rebecca. This seems more like a combination of time travel and multiverse travel, rather than just the traditional time travel story that we got in the original comic. So, like, does it excite you that we're getting to play with both aspects? And if so, how do you think this will balance? How do you think the writers and so will balance it to the point where it's a good Flash movie, but it's not just a movie to just serve as like, oh, we can just pull all these characters from all these other Earths and so on. Like, do you feel like this is the right Flash story to do for his own first Flash standalone movie?
Yeah, it does seem to be a combination of both Flashpoint and the introduction of the multiverse, which I guess Flashpoint always kind of did because it introduced the idea that Bruce Wayne's father is Batman instead. So, well, and I guess that's maybe more of an alternate, maybe Elseworld kind of a thing. But it does seem to be trying to combine some of those elements into one film, and I'm excited about it. I think that's going to be a really cool opportunity, especially for people in the general public who aren't as geeky about this kind of stuff like we are. I think the CW, the Arrowverse, has helped educate people a little bit about the multiverse and how that works and how you can have multiple Batmen in the same universe and it still be, both of them still be valid and awesome. So I think the broader more general audience who doesn't watch those shows on a weekly basis, that this is going to be their first introduction to a concept called the multiverse. Although I think Into the Spider-Verse maybe helped that a little bit, because now people know of a multiverse, maybe not so much in DC Comics, but they'll have that idea and know more about that. So I'm excited to see how they play with that and how that impacts Barry's journey, because my concern is I don't want it to be, hey, look at all the Batman characters we have in this film, and it overshadow the Flash and what he's got going on. Because if it is going to be Flashpoint, it should be more focused on Flash. So that's my big concern, is that they overshadow him. But hopefully it's just, a couple little fun cameos and that's it. But I think if they use it because Flashpoint is an emotional story in all of the different iterations, whether it be the comic books, whether it be the animated movie or the CW, when they attempted it and did their own version, which to Mark's point, it should be a variation of their take and their interpretation of it, because it was a little bit different. But I think it needs to be kind of an emotional story for Barry, and it's something that he should it should further his character and his journey. So I think that's what I'm excited about in terms of the multiverse aspect, but also what I hope it does for Barry as a character.
Bill, how about you? How do you feel like this is the right story to do for his first movie? Because this will, even though we spend so little time with Barry in the DCU, like this is still a very big thing for him to do for his first movie in his own franchise.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's a character, I think, for a lot of the fans is associated with all the sort of multiverse stuff anyway. So it is a really solid fit. My one concern is that, a problem I have with the approach to multiverse stories sometimes is it becomes sort of like a clearinghouse of IP as a story. Like I think back to Countdown Arena that DC put out back before Final Crisis back in the mid-2000s, or that newer series they did where it was the one that brought back the pre-Flashpoint Superman. I can't remember the name.
It was Convergence, and then it rolled into Rebirth. Yeah,
where it's just hey, let's get 30 Supermen in a room and we can sell toys on it. And it doesn't really, it's, in some ways it's fun to see, these characters battle or whatnot, but at the end of the day, it eventually gets boring because it's 2 Supermen or 4 Supermen or 6 Supermen. So I hope that they're looking at imaginative ways to approach the multiverse and not to use it as a crutch to sell video games and toys and, different things like that. The fact that Ezra Miller and Grant Morrison worked on a pitch for The Flash that eventually became this gives me a lot of hope, though, because if anyone knows how to use the multiverse in an innovative way that isn't all about, selling the toys, it's Grant Morrison. So, if he even has a smattering of influence on this movie, I think it'll be an approach that at least I'll find entertaining. I mean, some people like those, battle royale, 40 Batman battle out and the vampire one wins, which is great, but it's not the kind of story I'm interested in.
Can you imagine the conversation to be a fly on the wall between Ezra Miller and Grant Morrison? I can't even imagine what that conversation was.
Rebecca, you know how many times that thought has gone through my head? Like when I saw the photo of them on Instagram, I'm like, this is the conversation I would just like if I had to sit there for 16 hours or 24 hours or a week, I would happily chain myself to to a refrigerator and just to listen to that, because like that is maybe one of the most creative pair-ups I've ever seen, given how Ezra is so invested into the Flash and how do I even have to explain what Grant Morrison has done for DC? So it's
You'd need like, I think you would need like an IV of like mescaline or peyote or something just to hang in that room. Like,
just to stay with him.
it's taking place on the 6th-dimensional plane.
I'm getting dizzy.
No, absolutely. The Grant Morrison is sometimes it's amazing how Grant Morrison is like, yeah, I'm a comic book writer. It's like, you are not just a comic book writer. You have like a lot of thought into just of the self and redefining things. And so again, to tie it back into Doom Patrol, he redefined Doom Patrol in '86, and he had so many stories just planned right away about what to do with these characters, why these characters are doing this thing. And for, at the very least, it's a fun, wacky story, right? And that's all you can really ask for from the general audience. As they go in, they're like, oh wow, this is fun and wacky. I had a great time watching it. And then you have people who continue to study what Grant Morrison is talking about in the movie. And if that happens with Flashpoint, that's a win. You got both. You got people who wanted just a fun adventure, they got it. You got people who want to see the DCEU become like this awe-inspiring Flash in Zack Snyder's DC universe, and that's the best you can ask for. And so Grant Morrison's really good at that. Grant Morrison's really good at taking like those themes that we talked about with Chris Terrio and stuff. What is the foundation for these characters? Okay, and then because Grant Morrison is such a wild brain, it's like he can really turn it around and make these things interesting. The Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck stuff, that is a concern. That is everyone should be, that's something producers are thinking about. How much screen time is Keaton going to get? How much is he going to get paid for it? This, that, and the other. Like that's when the studio stuff becomes a more of an issue, between it being a work of art between Ezra and Grant, and it being Warner Brothers saying, hey, this needs to break $1 billion because we got Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton. We got 2 Batmans in here. We're pulling people who've grew up with Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman films, and to this day, those are the best films, period. You can't convince people otherwise. You got people who think Ben Affleck's the greatest Batman ever, and it can't change. So, you're trying to please both people, and then you're forgetting that this is a Flash movie, right? Yeah. So it is a huge concern. There's really nothing we can say other than we hope for the best, right?
They're good gimmicks, but let's hope the gimmicks don't overtake the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know how to go about, how do you convince people to be like, hey, don't do that, except Andy Muschietti has to just be like, hey, I signed up to do the Flash, so
I've always found blackmail works really well to get people to stop doing things, but we got to get something on them.
I heard if you retweet a hashtag enough, they would understand. I heard that works.
Disclaimer: the views and opinions on Bill Meeks does not represent the DC podcast network. As Black Man, it's not something we stand for. Someday in the future, someone will pull this clip and be like, "Look at them DC TV podcasts. They love themselves on blackmailing," and I'm gonna I will be put on I will be burned to the ground. But no, what I wanted to add, because I've had this conversation with my host and with other people multiple times about, is this the right thing to do for a Flash movie? And here, I think at this point, after all these years, after going back and forth with us, I think at this point it is, because I think, I'm not going to blame the TV show, but I'm going to say that I think the TV show has done so much where, when the movie comes out, which will probably be 2022, 2023 or so on, I'm not, and listeners who listen to me constantly, I'm not hinting at anything, I don't know anything, but it's possible that the show will probably be over at that point. Unless Grant Gustin wants to be the new Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles and just do this for 15 seasons, and my reaction to say everything. I'm here for 10 seasons, but like let's not go beyond that. But either way, I think that for this, because this kind of goes into like, because we talked a little about it. Crimes on Infinite Earths really helped Warner Brothers with solidifying their multiverse concept. Every TV show and movie that has come in the past, that exists right now and will come in the future, and are now connected in the Arrowverse multiverse. They're all on their separate Earths. They're all, they don't have to reference each other, but they're still all connected in one way or another. Like this is DC's biggest drive compared to the MCU that is now getting to the multiverse. But what do they have to pull from? They don't have this long history of legacy that they have on TV and film. And so for me, I'm excited. I'm definitely concerned about how much Batman is going to be in it. Like I feel with Keaton, it should be more like of a maybe 2 or 3 scenes maximum, because he's gonna. We all know that he's getting a new suit, and even though I've come to care about the Power Rangers looking suit, this new one, it does look very cool, and it would be kind of amazing if the reason that Barry gets this design is because he references, maybe he tells this Batman from this other Earth that I met this other Flash in this other universe, and his suit was so sleek, it was so tight, and it was just so comfortable, and like I kind of want that, and it like it looks really, really cool in the concept art. So like imagine, like, I mean, I don't know if it's been confirmed if they have a costume designer yet, but like if they really invest the money into it, like it can be one of the best things we've ever seen in DC costumes in live action. So, but I think all 3 of you are making the best point of all of it. As like, exciting as the multiverse is, this needs to be a Flash story. Like I rather see Barry hang out with Grant Gustin, John Wesley Shipp, Kanan Lone, other Flashes, than having to go after Batman's because he's a cash grab. Like I love Ben Affleck, but I'd rather see Ben Affleck as Batman in his own movie or a show, or like just him and Henry Cavill doing a talk show, because I ship Ben Ray. But like I don't like the Flash is like if we had to talk about money and box office, the Flash is successful in his own right. The Flash is the highest rated show on the CW, and it's one of the most popular shows on Netflix across the entire world. And like he doesn't need Batman's help. Like he doesn't need the crutch of the Cape Crusader. So this needs to be like if I see Batman surrounding all. I mean, if you all remember the Spider-Man Homecoming poster, like how many big ass shots of Tony Stark was all plastered all over those posters. I wanted to Batman in one poster with Ezra, and then everything else promotional material wise, it needs to have Iris, it needs to have Nora, it needs to have, hopefully, I pray to God we get a Reverse Flash, and because this is a Flash movie. Like like we don't listen. We don't need to be Captain America Civil War, where like we call it a Captain America movie, but it's actually just another Avengers movie. Kevin Feige, you know where you can find me. So yeah, I fully agree. Let's look at in the chat and see what people are saying. Square Screen Entertainment has a theory. What if Barry travels to the BVS timeline and convinces Lois to have Kal-El try a different approach to killing Lex's Doomsday? Therefore, Darkseid and Apocalypse won't invade Earth.
Well, that is true. That apparently, when and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark or Bill, but apparently when Superman dies and he screams out when he's being killed, that's what triggers the apocalypse and the mother boxes and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So if he didn't die in that scenario, then that probably wouldn't happen. But for me, that sort of takes away the sacrificial aspect and the heroic thing that Superman does in that movie, and the emotional stuff that comes out of it. Of course, in the Justice League, we didn't get the proper handling of the mourning of his death. But I don't know that I want to see him prevent his sacrificial death. Like, I appreciated that they did that bold thing 2 movies in and killed Superman that nobody was expecting. So for me, I think it's a valid theory. I just don't know that I would want to see it happen.
I do think
what if he has to go back and I was just gonna say, what if he has to go back in time and make sure it happens? Like he's like Doomsday here. Just when you get the spear, stab him in the chest.
Oh, good lord, that'd be so graphic.
He has to protect that moment in time.
That's non-paradoxical time travel, I think is what that's called. No, that's legit. There's scientists call it paradoxical time travel and non-paradox. That's what I learned from Lost.
I think determinism, I think too, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, we get it. You guys all know fancy words. I don't. I do think it would be cool if Barry does go back in time and at least talks to Lois about like whatever happens, you are the key. You're the one who whatever happens to Clark, you're you need to be the one that is the one to pull him back because there is no Superman without Lois Lane. Lois is essential to Superman forever and always. And listen, I don't have a fancy attitude. I can't go back in time and tell Rebecca that Lois Lane is the key. But I can definitely recognize that I could not even imagine the Superman mythology without Lois. So, the more things we can see with Lois and Barry, I think that would be great. Let's see, what else do we have in the chat? Brother Nate from the Black Lightning podcast says that at the end of the day, regardless of his teammates, Ezra has to be LeBron. Flash should be the focus. Yeah. I don't. LeBron. That's a sports person, right?
He's a very famous and talented basketball player.
Listen. I grew up with Sailor Moon, Yu-Gi-Oh, like Digimon, and so I wasn't paying attention to sports when I was growing up. So I'm the worst.
Andy, come on! You don't know LeBron. We all know LeBron. I know LeBron so much. He's great doing what he does with the stuff.
LeBron is the Yugi of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Rachel says that Barry would also like to explain that he's using the name The Flash now. Well, that was the cool thing in the Crisis cameo because when Gransberry says, well, I'm also The Flash, Ezra Flash has never heard a name because in the Justice League, I sound like a role like Justice League.
Like it was an insert that they had to put in later.
Yeah, he never gets the name, and so maybe that was also part of the Snyder cut. But yeah, he would have to explain why he has his identity now. And who knows? How cool would it be if the Crisis cameo is in the movie, but it's shown from Ezra's perspective? Like, how does he get there? Like, how come that this young ass Barry Allen didn't know that the entire multiverse was being destroyed? Like, does this mean that his Earth, let's say Earth DCU, hadn't been destroyed yet? Or what was going on? That's the kind of things that we could see the movie answer. And that's the perfect Flash story. As opposed to like, hey, let's go hang out with Val Kilmer and George Clooney and Michael Keaton and Kevin Conroy and Ben Affleck. And
who are you forgetting?
I feel Adam West is no longer with us. So but I feel I'm an iconic one. Like who?
Well, then you're going into all the voice actors who've portrayed him. That's a long list in itself.
Where's Jason O'Mara at?
And I've played him in a high school play before, so me too.
Oh my gosh, a Bill Meeks Batman in the Flashpoint film. That's all I ever want. That's what I want.
There's your post credit scene.
Yeah.
Hashtag Flashpoint the Meeks cut.
Release the mix cut. Yes.
Release the mix cut.
Well, I'm gonna kind of merge these two final questions together because I know we had run a little bit over time. So these are kind of just more kind of like easier, fun questions. Thanks to Crisis, we have this whole multiverse aspect. And if we had to put in a cameo that we want to see ourselves from any other DC actors, from TV or film and so on, just for a cameo. This is a Flash story that, I think we should all stick to that. Who would you want to see from past franchises? We're going to start with Rebecca. Who would you want to see?
This might seem like an obvious answer because I do a podcast about Supergirl. But I would love to see Helen Slater as Kara Zor-El in some regard. I was convinced they were going to do it in Crisis on Infinite Earths on the Arrowverse, but even though they had Eliza Danvers and Helen Slater as part of that interpretation of the DC universe, they didn't use her for some reason. So I would love it if they borrowed from that part of the interpretations of DC on film, because that's part of, you know, the Donnerverse and all that kind of stuff. They've used Mark McClure in the Justice League, and I think he has an expanded role in Zack Snyder's Justice League. So they have used some Donnerverse people in there, but I would love to see Helen Slater sort of, you know, come back. And, you know, her Supergirl movie is maligned a lot of the time, and I understand the criticisms, and I get that they're valid, but I also would love to see her be redeemed in that regard. You know, a lot of people are excited about a possible Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern cameo. Well, why can't we have Helen Slater come on and redeem her Supergirl movie? That's what I would like. So I think that would be the one I would pick.
If you're someone who's watching the show right now and you're actually wanting Ryan Reynolds to come back as Green Lantern, why? He was not like, listen, Ryan Reynolds is an amazing actor. He ain't no Hal Jordan though. Like, that was Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds in a Green Lantern no, not even a Green Lantern costume. It was an animated costume. No. We have Helen Slater. That would be so awesome. And also, she can get her own, like, maybe her own nightmare suit. I don't like, you know, like, kind of, because, you know, what has happened on Earth. You know, we could see like her having a more evolved Supergirl costume, because
a Helen Slater Supergirl, like a nightmare version of her, would be so awesome.
I would kind of dig her in like the disco 70s suit with like the long sleeves and stuff. That'd be fun with the headband.
Oh yeah. I would.
Which one is he referencing?
It sounds like Bill's talking about the pre-crisis or in the crisis.
Yeah,
with the head.
Yeah, it was like around the same time when she was like wasn't she like a soap opera star?
I'm trying to think of, that was in the Superman comics.
Mainly when she had the headband, that area. It was like late 70s, early 80s.
Hold on. Did you just say that she was a soap opera actress? Like,
you don't know this?
Yeah.
This character was born for Rebecca. Like,
yeah. It's my favorite thing about Supergirl. Nobody knows about it. She was an actress on a soap opera series. So yeah, that's awesome.
You did get one thing wrong though, Rebecca, and I wanted to correct you at it at the time, but I didn't want to be rude.
No, it's fine.
You said that people have criticisms about Supergirl the movie and that they're valid. That's wrong. They're not valid. It's a perfect movie. It's a perfect movie.
Okay, thank you for that correction. I appreciate it.
Well, let's move on. And Bill, who would you want to see pulled from the DC multiverse for a cameo? Not to take over Barry's story, because it's Barry's movie.
2 minutes. I want 1 2-minute scene.
Okay.
Barry, running through the multiverse. He pops out. Super Friends. 2 minutes. Ezra Miller. Dude, I'm a cartoon. That's all I want.
That's kind of genius.
Yeah.
I would love that. I would love that.
In animation?
Yeah, like he's animated too, but it's
That's
like
great.
the movie version of him, but it's still kind of simplified like the Super Friends was. So yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's all I want in the world. Honestly.
Mark, what about you?
World peace.
Oh, sorry.
It's a tough one. It's a tough question. Part of me has always wanted to defend Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern, because I think the director's cut of that movie is a good argument for, this movie or this franchise that he would have been a part of would have been great had there been a sequel to follow up with Mark Strong's Sinestro. I think that movie is deserves a rewatch from a lot of people, and to see how, like, there is some good in this movie. The only reason I don't want to see Ryan Reynolds come back is because I think Hal Jordan is awful. I think that Hal Jordan is the worst Green Lantern.
Hot take coming
I think
in.
there's better Green Lanterns out there, because Hal Jordan's just kind of an ass. So you have a lot of other good ones. It doesn't have to be Jon Stewart. You have Kyle Rayner, who's my favorite. And then we have new ones now. We have Jessica Cruz. We have Amir.
The Cat.
Simon Bass.
Simon Bass. Yeah. The one from the New 52.
Simon
yeah.
Bass. Yes.
I think like stuff like that is great. Jessica Cruz is kind of like in the zeitgeist now, and I think rightfully so. But there's other Green Lanterns to do stories for. You don't have to always pick Hal Jordan. So there's always that. There, with Flashpoint, there's always that talk of like, okay, is there going to be a Flashpoint version of Superman? Do you want Henry Cavill to be CGI'd into an emaciated person?
No more CGI on Henry Cavill. No more. No, that boy has been punished enough with CGI.
You could just, you can get Nicolas Cage finally in there and be emaciated Superman in a cell. And he could probably knock that one out of the park. So there are things like that you could play around with and kind of do something fun like that. But besides that, I don't know. You can't really do Jim Carrey Riddler because you have another Riddler coming out on screen, so that's kind of conflicting. I think.
Wait, Zack Snyder's going to be in the movie?
Riddler in the new Batman movie?
Yeah, Zack Snyder going to. Oh, I thought you were talking about that.
Oh no, I meant that there's going to be another Riddler on the screen soon, so that would be conflicting. But we have two Jokers now, so. I don't know, maybe do something with that, but I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know who. I think my best. I've always wanted to see Nicolas Cage try to do Superman, so I think that would be mine.
It would be cool to have him show up with Shaquille O'Neal's steel. That'd be fun.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You mean rubber? That ain't no steel costume. That's a rubber costume.
I feel like I'm forgetting someone. There's more Matt Ryan Constantine. Maybe put him in movies. I think he does well. Oh wait, they're trying to bring back Keanu, right? Or something.
Well, on the subject of Keanu, because I want to just see Rebecca's reaction to this. And Alan Slater and Keanu Reeves as Earth 96 Kara and Brainy.
I'm into it. Let's do it.
There you go.
That would be a fun way to get Keanu Reeves into.
That would be perfect.
And he would probably be green from the get-go. I mean, look, I love Jesse Raff, but I don't know why. I feel bad for Rebecca having to have podcasts about a show with Brainiac where he was blue for a whole season. Like the blue scared me.
That's the least of the problems.
I think what we do need now is we do need the TV show to somehow make it into the movie, because I think even Marvel set that up and never did anything with it, right? Because there was such a falling out between the producer of the Netflix series that it just never happened, right? But you were always like, oh, well, what if Daredevil shows up, right? Something cool like that. And we had Ezra Miller in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's time to maybe flip that around. What if you had Swamp Thing show up or something like so? Use what you set up and bridge those things. I'm not saying Swamp Thing specifically, but I'm just kind of picking a name out of the hat. If you had Matt Ryan's Constantine show up in Black Adam with Dr. Fate and stuff like that, then you're really kind of bridging those things together, and that's something fun to play around with. And you have it. They can make the phone call anytime and pull that
I mean,
card.
that's what happened. Like Warner Brothers, the film division, they called Peter Roth, who former WB president, because he's stepping down, but they called and asked them, Can we put Ezra in the crossover? It wasn't Greg Bland who went and asked them. The film division that has been so, I almost cussed for a second, who's been a nightmare to the TV side, being like, well, you can't have Batman because people will be confused. We have to have at the same time. Like, can you please, sir, but we have some more Flash. It's like, I will never do a British accent because I can't. But I love Oliver Twist. Like they came to them. After they were done with filming, they were like, can we make this happen? And Mark Guggenheim made it happen. Like, for all the faults that he has done, this was not one of them.
He has so many faults.
I know.
But it's so isn't it it's amazing how easy it is for people to just say yes, and I feel like a lot of times they say no. I mean, this Crisis on Infinite Earths, this was like them finally accepting that they can acknowledge this, because for a while now, I think The Flash was it, where they casted Ezra Miller for a movie and they already had Grant Gustin, and they were like, oh, we got two Flashes now. It's like unheard of. We usually can't do that. And then they got Tyler Hoechlin as their Superman, so we had two Supermans, and they were like, it's just finally they've been able to just kind of like come to terms that people can understand that there's different ones, and that the audience is a little bit smarter than that. They don't have to There's no competition within themselves over having 2 Superman, having 2 Flashes, having
Seems
2 Batman in one movie. So like let's
yeah.
clear that.
They had 3 Supermen in Crisis on Infinite Earth. So
Exactly.
I think they've gotten over it now.
Rebecca,
Good.
you and I, we remember. I mean, this goes way back to our Smallville days, where like we couldn't get Bruce on, like we couldn't even just get Bruce Wayne on Smallville because of Christian Bale's Batman, because they were like, it's gonna be confusing. Like we can't have Wonder Woman because we're doing a movie, and then look how many years it took. I still think that if Melissa Benoist and Henry Cavill could share the screen, that would be
So good.
because I feel like I love Tyler Hoechlin, but I feel like there's something like I could just see like an unbelievable chemistry between Henry and Melissa as those iconic cousins.
Yeah.
And now I mean, heck, her costume her new costume kind of looks like very Man of Steel inspired. So for me, I mean, look, and anyone who knows me knows that if I could put anyone from the DC multiverse into something like Flashpoint, it would be Tom Welling. Like, just like, even if he's not as Superman anymore, like it would just be fun to just go back to that Earth quickly. But but for me, if anyone, I think it should be Grant. Like honestly, like I think for all the years that we've had to see people like pit them against each other, or like trying to be like, well, the movie one is better than Flash because Flash is wearing just a crappy leather suit, or well, at least Grant knows how to run, and insert pointless banter, whatever. Like for me, it's like Grant Ezra like has so much fun filming that moment, and the fact that like again, out of all the things that leaked, that thing was kept under lock and key, and I'm so happy for that because like I fell off my chair and I was shaking, and I was supposed to live tweet that night, I think, and I just like, what's the point? What's the point of live tweeting anymore? Like, what's the point of life? Grant and Gustin and Ezra Miller was just on screen together. Holy mother effing God. So yeah, if I could pick anyone, it would be Grant. And like, and if the show is over at that point, they could film some of those sequences in post-production, before the movie comes out. Not that we're going back to the theaters anytime soon because 2020. But that's what I would want to see. Because I mean that was just so rewarding because like they always said it's never gonna happen. The movies are too good for the CW, for the Arrowverse. It's never gonna happen. And then what happens? WB Pictures come and it's all thanks to Walter Hamada. Walter Hamada, who's now leading DC Films, like he has got this thing together now. Like he's he's mostly letting his director do their thing, and realizing that what, we have an unlimited potential here with the multiverse. While Marvel goes and does like 700 million jokes in every movie and having to rely on stupid stones. I love those movies, but it was annoying having to follow 3 phases that were so dependent on those freaking stones. The DC universe has the multiverse where like we can put like, well, what does Earth 3 look like? What does an evil Justice League look like? Or what does a universe where Clark landed in Russia, for example, like all these kind of things. That's what I love so much about the DC series, that they have infinite Earths, literally. For my final question, as we start wrapping it up, and if you guys have any final thoughts on Flash in the DC, what you're hoping and expecting and wishing for in the Zack Snyder's Justice League cut or his solo film and beyond, this is your opportunity. So Rebecca, if you want to start us off, if you have any final thoughts about what you're hoping for Ezra Miller in the DCU.
I was so excited to see the end of the Zack Snyder's Justice League trailer from HBO Max, because the Barry who talks to the team there is a completely different characterization than what we saw in the Justice League. He seemed more sure of himself. He seemed smarter. He seemed like he was an intelligent guy, a scientist maybe. He seemed very together and sure of himself, and that was not a Barry that we saw in the Justice League, where he was more I don't want to say cowardly. That might be unfair to him, because he did go and do some brave things, even though he had a lot of fear. But he seemed timid and scared, and he was portrayed as a newbie. And so I'm mostly looking forward to seeing how Zack Snyder wanted to portray the Flash through Ezra Miller and get to see what Ezra wanted to bring to the table, because Ezra has a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas about the Flash, and I think what he was excited about was bringing more of that scientific aspect of Barry Allen to the screen. I mean, if you look at Barry's little lair, even in the Justice League, there's a picture of Nikola Tesla in there. And so I think he's supposed to be a smart guy, and he was supposed to be heroic. He fights off characters in the Suicide Squad. He saves somebody in BVS in that little quick cameo. So he was supposed to be a heroic character who knew his stuff. And so I'm excited to see the furthering of that with what Zack intended to do with the character in Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I think I'm most excited just to see how he was actually supposed to be portrayed instead of how he was portrayed with the rewrites that Joss Whedon came in and did for that character. So that and see his importance with Lois Lane. I hope we get more of that. But I think I'm most excited about seeing what his actual intended portrayal was supposed to be.
Right on. Bill, top that. Can you top that?
I can top that. Let me see. Everything Rebecca said times 2. There, I topped it.
Done.
No, I like I mentioned earlier, I'm really excited, and this is kind of what Rebecca said, but just to see more dimensionality to Barry Allen's character, because he was a very thin character, and I just hope they get really imaginative with the way they approach the multiverse. Like, I would love to see like a big like CG orrery of worlds that was, you know, that thing from Final Crisis, or I don't know, a room with like 52 monitors in it. That would be kind of fun too. I just hope that they, and it seems like they just completely embrace their roots and don't think that it's going to be too silly. And gosh darn it, I want everyone back in spandex, no armor, all spandex all the time. I want them to look ridiculous. That's my biggest hope.
We just got a comment on that by Graham saying they always use the Barry Allen name but one Wally West.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true.
I mean, WB, you can have both. You can have, you know, you can have it all. You can have Jay Garrick. You can have Barry Allen. You can have Wally West. You can have Bart Allen. You can have Jesse Quick. You can have all of them together. Like, listen, we're giving you free ideas. I mean, you're not listening. You didn't even want the Snyder Cut out for all these years. So, what do you know, Mark? What about you? Like, any closing thoughts on your hopes and expectations for Ezra Miller's Flash in the DCU? What is it in the Snyder Cut, in his own movie, or even beyond that? Because I don't think we're losing him anytime soon.
Yeah, the you know, my only final thought on that is really just more of a plea to just when it comes to these stories, whether, you know, not even just filmmaking, but the TV shows, the actual comic book industry, that these stories, that there's faith put into what's going on with them. And, you know, with Ezra being Flash and everyone who's working on it, because there's been so many directors that have rotated out of making this film, have faith in that storytelling and the story that they want to tell. That's pretty much where I'm at, because I think, you know, the best way to put it is, because I know a lot of people, they like to say that, you know, I didn't like that movie or I did like that movie, and that becomes a thing of preference. You know, I would never have written Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I would never. That was not a story I was asking for, but it's a great movie. It's a great story. I like that story. I think it's great. I wasn't asking for it. I wouldn't have wrote it, but it's there, you know? And I think it's something like that, where it's like, so many times I think people are trying to like write movies for the audience. And it's like, well, you know, I'm not that kind of guy. Just write the story you want, and I'm here admiring it, you know, like I'm soaking it in, you know. And I think that's one of the things I didn't want to really get into it, because again, I'm not that kind of person. But when it comes to like Endgame, there's a lot of the time travel part of it was a little bit kind of like, okay, yeah, it's time travel. Like that was like an actual line in the movie, because so many people were like, well, you have to time travel. and it's like they didn't want to admit it, and it's like it just do your story. It's cool. It's fine. You don't have to write this movie for the audience. Just do what you're trying to do. But Endgame kind of felt like that. Infinity War I thought was awesome, but Endgame was just kind of like, we got to write this for the fans because they stuck with us for so long. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have to write it for me. I don't care. You do whatever you want. So do that. Have faith in the people who are writing the stories, who are making the stories, the reason that they make the stories in the first place. So that's pretty much it. And I'll be happy. I don't care what happens.
Yeah. Sorry, Garba, go on.
I was just gonna say, I heard a writer once say, "Don't give the audience what they want, give them what they need." So I've always thought
That's
that's
right,
a
because
good way to
you
approach
referenced
it.
this person for many seasons now. I'm like, she never says who it is.
I want to say it was Damon Lindelof, but don't pin me on that. But I'm pretty sure.
No,
it
I
was
think
the
I
Lost
think I read
Guys.
that book. It was that Anna Nicole Smith book she came out with years ago.
Oh, could
Yeah.
very well be. She was very wise.
Yeah, especially on writing. Like everyone knows she
Yeah.
was just like, right up there with like Charles Dickens and everything.
I mean, fantastic.
Yeah.
Charles Dickens is like one of my heroes. Like yeah, if you're
Right up there with Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah.
She sounds cool. I don't know who she is.
Yeah, go look her up later.
Yeah,
Andy.
yeah. Like all of you guys have been mentioning so many things that I don't like, references and call it. I'm like, am I really that behind on everything? No, I
Just
mean,
on the important things.
yeah. If people knew me in high school, like they would have seen like how like a worshiper I was of Charles Dickens, like during my second year, especially because, like, I mean, there was papers and essays and like, and people were like, who knew me like a long time, like, when did you get this upset with Charles Dickens? Like, he was a freaking hero, and you respect that. Anyway, for me, what I ultimately want to see, because I feel like Ezra is going to be a front face for the franchise going forward. Like, because at some point, this guy will be done, and he will be the one slipping around on the screen. And Flash is one of the best mythologies in fiction. And when you have the right writers, the right director, and the right stars, and just the right attitude, the Flash mythology can go on for movies and movies and movies. Speed Force, multiverse, team ups. I mean, if you just do it right, if you're not so damn concerned about, well, but geez, we gotta make $1 billion because we're putting into Batman, then get out of the film industry, because you're hurting the IP, you're hurting the character's legacy, just because you want to make a good buck. Flash can make good money on his own if you also let him shine. Don't depend on other characters and just use another name. So I just want to see this mythology embraced, and I think if anyone is going to help kickstart that, it is Zack Snyder. And to all the Snyder haters, go take a hike. Like, you don't, like, if you can't see what Zack is doing, that's your problem. Like, it's not our problem that you're not educated. And just because all the supers are not just smiling and just being super optimistic all the time, or just not behaving like a certain other franchise did, doesn't mean that they can't be true to their own characters. So yeah, I'm excited for what's coming next year, and we're gonna see new Iris as well, hopefully in a lot of scenes. I hope it's just not just that one scene, even though I do think it's adorable that that's how she finds out that he's the speedster, because he saves her. And you see her face, she's like, gosh, like, and I don't think they know each other yet in this universe. Rebecca?
I have no idea. I assume they have an interaction prior to that, but I have no idea.
Fair enough. And so yeah, that's what my biggest hope and final thoughts are on this. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been so much fun, but we've gone way over time. Although it is a Friday, so hopefully everyone is okay with that. But it's been a fun discussion. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in and with your questions and thoughts. And again, I'm now obsessed with the idea of Keanu Reeves as Brainiac 5. Rebecca, I think you need to talk to Morgan about that and like just make it happen, because I mean, that would be dope.
Yeah, because everybody who makes these TV shows and movies really listen to us and our requests.
Well, I mean, if anything, you guys should be the showrunners of Supergirl.
I
Like,
mean,
you know,
we give them ideas all the time, and they never take them.
yeah. I mean, at this point, like Rebecca, like you should start charging for every time you put out those good ideas because, like, if I see anything next season that like remotely looks like something you pitch out, like, listen, we have lawyers on our podcast network. We got you, girl. We got you covered.
Okay,
So,
good.
Yeah. Yes.
I say you just drive up to Vancouver, knock on the studio door, and be like, "Hey, where's my paycheck?"
No, the writers are still in LA, so like Rebecca would have to travel to Canada for God's sake. But
Actually, I don't know if she could right now.
I'll find a way.
Yeah, Rebecca Jones is a superhero. She can make anything happen. So, so we're gonna just start doing our plugs, and we're gonna sign off. And so we're gonna start with Rebecca. First of all, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you on social media? Tell people about Supergirl Radio if they're not already listening, which they should, and what's coming up, and any other projects you want to plug.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And it was fun to talk to everybody about The Flash and the DCEU and the Zack Snyder's Justice League. So thank you for having me on to talk about it. You can find me on Supergirl Radio, which you can go to supergirlradio.com. We're all on the social medias at Supergirl Radio. So definitely follow us on Instagram. We're crushing it on Instagram. So if you're not following us on Instagram, you really should. But yeah, so if you want to know about the CW Supergirl, or if you want to hear comic book reviews, we're currently still going through the Rebirth era. So we're doing some of that. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. In November, we're going to do a Supergirl the movie debate in a legit debate format. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And we've got some stuff in December coming up. If you're a listener of Supergirl Radio, we may have an option for you to get involved and maybe be a host of Supergirl Radio. So stay in and listening to the podcast for that, because we'll drop an announcement in the podcast feed for ways you can get involved and be part of Supergirl Radio. So we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. So we always try to focus on Supergirl. So if you are into the character, want to learn more, check us out.
And Bill, listen, I mean, one of these days, I'm gonna make you a podcast about DCTV again. Like, I mean, listen, tell Anne-Marie that you two better get ready, because I will find you the perfect show. Like, if it ain't gonna be Gotham, like, listen.
I thought you were gonna be like, I will find you.
I mean,
gonna be like, of course you will, because I'm taking your apartment.
I mean. Then have fun paying my mortgage and my rent. But no, we miss you on the network. We miss both of you. So please come back anytime either you guys want. So tell everyone where they can find you on social media. Tell them about Do Anything Media, The Fakest. I mean, listen, tell them about your celebrity life, because I can't wait.
Well, I mean, I'll just say I got a call from a major television network this week. But besides that, I want to talk to you about some products here. Do Anything Media. I make stuff. Chief among them, and one you might be interested in, I wrote this book, Fan Podcasting, The Complete Guide. It includes wisdom from Rebecca and Morgan from Supergirl Radio, among other people. It's coming out with an audiobook. If it's not out on Audible tonight, it will be tomorrow or next week. You can also get it through Hoopla if your library has Hoopla. And then next week, I do a sketch comedy podcast called The Fakest, which Rebecca also stars in. All my stuff has Rebecca.
With pink hair. Love it.
But we're doing a Halloween special next week, and it'll release on Monday at thefakest.com or on Apple Podcast or whatever.
Can you
and I'll come up with another project to involve Rebecca in very soon.
I'm there.
Well, I mean, if I wouldn't mind either, but you just want my apartment, so that's fine. Do you want to tell listeners what her character's name is, because of how it pertains to tonight's discussion?
Originally, in season 1, I named her just Leanne. Eventually, I had to give her a last name. I decided to give her the last name Snyder. So Leanne Snyder is her character's name.
I love
referencing,
it.
Of course, the Snyder Cut.
Yes, of course. Awesome. Mark, thank you so much for coming on. Like, let's do more DC podcasting together at some point. Tell them about where you can find your own social media and the DC Cinematic Minute, Doom Patrol, and anything else you want to plug.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of wrote it there. DCEU Minute. That's the first podcast I started with Nate. That's where we go minute by minute through the DC cinematic universe. Right now, we're doing Wonder Woman Minute. We took a bit of a hiatus, but our latest episode with Nana and Cole from the Nerd Queens, they joined us to talk about some minutes from Wonder Woman. So that was our latest episode. You can check out. It was great having them on to talk about Wonder Woman. And after we get done with Wonder Woman is Zack Snyder's Justice League. So we'll be going minute by minute through that film as well, or series, however you want to call it. And so we'll have people on to talk with us and discuss what's going on in that film as well. And then Doom Patrol Radio, that's the other show that Nathan and I started, where we've always been super into Doom Patrol. It was like a huge influence in our lives and stuff like that. We talk about it all the time. So the fact that there's a show now, it was amazement. So we decided we are going to be talking about it all the time anyways. It would be a shame to not have a Doom Patrol podcast. So we have one, Doom Patrol Radio. It's amazing. Nate seems to really like being a part of it, and I am in love with it. So definitely check that one out as well. And that's pretty much it.
And I'm going to put links to everything that they just plugged in the show notes. You can go click, subscribe, follow, like, Insta, Snap, TikTok, just go follow it all, listen to it all, because these are great people who are putting out some great content out there in the world. So definitely go check out everything that they're doing. And for me, I'm not as impressive. So you can just follow me on social media at Animated. You can follow all my stuff there, all my screen articles and me ranting about whatever. So or posting an article that gets people upset, and that's always an interesting time. So in terms of this podcast, you can follow the Flash Podcast on theflashpodcast.com. Find us on social media at the Flash Podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, iHeartRadio, all of the places. If you haven't done so already, go rate and review on Apple Podcasts, because that's a great way to support us on Apple. Go rate all the DCTV podcasts, because the more 5-star reviews we get, the higher we get on Apple Podcasts, and then more people can find the podcast. Because I don't want to brag, but I think DC Podcast has maybe the best, has some of the best DCTV podcasts out there in the multiverse. So and we've been around for quite a while, so we know our stuff. And speaking of DC Podcasts, and now I'm going to have to feel the pain that Morgan has to feel. But you can go to dcpodcast.com to find podcasts for all the shows. So we have podcasts for Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Titans, Doom Patrol, Batwoman, Stargirl, Superman and Lois, Green Lantern, Strange Adventure, Justice League Dark, and DC After Dark. So go subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play. And of course, on YouTube, we're almost at 500 subscribers. So get us there. Get us to 500 subscribers before, because I think the next show, of course, is coming. The next live stream will be Supergirl Radio, so get them to 5 subscribers. So because we're so close, so do that. You can get amazing DC merchandise in our DC Podcast TeePublic store. So click on the link in the show notes below. It's so weird to do this on video, because now I know there's like a little box underneath me with links. So click in the show notes below, get something for yourself. Not only do you support yourself as a DC TV fan, but also you help support this network so we can keep fitting onto my podcast alcoholism. And last but not least, you can email theflashpodcast@gmail.com for any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, recommendations. We're going to do some mailbag episodes before the year is over. So send us your thoughts. You can ask us about non-Arrowverse stuff as well. So there you have it. So again, to my amazing guests, Rebecca, Bill, Mark, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we can do this again very soon, talking about Snyder. Listen, talking about a great director who does great things for the DC universe. I stand. So thank you so much for coming on and letting me have this great discussion on a Friday night. And to the listeners and the viewers, it's so weird to say viewers, for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much. We will try to, some of the other projects are experimenting with it, so hopefully this will become more of a regular thing. So subscribe, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can know when we go live or put up a brand new video. I've become one of those people. Oh my god. Okay. Yes. So everyone, have a great weekend. We'll see you soon on the Flash Podcast, and thank you for tuning in. So see you soon. Bye.